Hey, what's going on, everybody? In this video, we're going to be doing my March book haul, and I definitely did a lot better than going super crazy like I did in February with the 50 plus book haul. But anyways, these first few books I'm going to put up are the books that I got for $10 at the thrift store. I had my own video for that, and I'll leave a link down below, so we're just going to briefly go over those first. So let's get started. Alright. I picked up 11 of these Oxford very short introduction books for $5, and I'm just going to run through the titles real quick. The Earth, which I've already read, is pretty good. English Literature, blah. Postmodernism, Liberalism, Cosmology, Film, with half the back ripped off for whatever reason, Geography, Plants, Shakespeare, Earth System Science, which I'm not really sure what the difference between that and like Earth is, because it sounds like the same thing, but we'll see. And Art History. So I picked up those 11 very short introductions for $5, and that was just like an awesome steal, and I'm really glad I got them. Alright, now for the other 6 books that I got at the thrift stores, and I think I paid, $5 for these ones, like, altogether. The first one, which I've already read, is How the Irish Saved Civilization, which I picked up for the Irish Readathon. Unfortunately, this was kind of, it was kind of a silly book, and I did not like it all that much, to be honest. Basically, the whole premise of the book, why the Irish saved civilization isn't even told till, like, the last quarter of the book. And then the argument's not convincing at all, and he even admits, some other people basically did the same thing they did. And you're just like, okay. Like, what was the point of the book then? But anyways, so there was that one. And the author also wrote Sailing the Wine Dark Sea, Why the Greeks Matter. But now I'm kind of nervous to start this one because of how I rated that one. But, well, we'll see. I don't know. I love I love Greek history, so maybe someday. Also picked up The Daylight War by Peter Brett, which is the 3rd book in the Demon Cycle series, which I've heard is really good. Unfortunately, I don't have the 1st or 2nd book, or have read them, so this is just going to sit on the shelf until I do. But it was $1, and it's the hardcover edition with the dust jacket, so I thought I really shouldn't pass that up. I got The Botany of Desire by Michael Pollan. Forging the Thunderbolt, which I thought was a cool steal. It's about history of the United States armored forces, like tanks and armored personnel carriers, all that stuff from in World War I and World War II, which I wanted to pick up for the value of learning about World War I, because basically, from my understanding, is Americans basically just used French armor in the First World War, but I'm going to see how true that is after reading this. Also, there's The Sports Gene, which I dropped when I was messing around, so there's that one as well. Alright, I also picked up a bunch of books for the Irish Readathon. The first one I didn't read was The Wars of the Irish Kings, mainly because it's actually just an anthology of primary source material, and I just really wasn't in the mood to read a bunch of monastic Irish histories, to be honest, this month. But I also picked up Only the Stone Survive, which I have a review. I'll leave the link down below. I like the setting, and I like the retelling of the myth and the legend of the coming of the Gaels to Ireland and replacing the Tuatha Dé Danann. I just felt some of the characters were a little lackluster, and that was my biggest disappointment with the book. But the setting was really nice. From a classic of Irish literature, I picked up Celtic Twilight by W.B. Yeats, and this is actually just like a collection of short stories that he gathered while traveling throughout Ireland, conducting oral histories of like local lore, which it was kind of interesting. I've never read anything quite like it. So if short stories or oral history are things you like, you should definitely check this one out. And also I picked up In Search of Ancient Ireland, and actually I learned quite a bit. This is the first Irish history book that I've actually read all the way through. And I definitely learned a lot, especially in the ancient and early medieval side of things. I just had a really rough sort of outline sketch of like what was going on in Ireland, but now I definitely feel like I know a lot more about it, so definitely glad I picked that one up. And lastly, the book that I'm probably most excited that I got this month. I've never heard of it before, never heard of the author before, and the book is Collision of Empires: The War on the Eastern Front in 1914 by Preet Bharara. And apparently this is the first book in a 4-book series on the Eastern Front in World War One. What's interesting is Eastern Front studies is like a really big thing for World War Two, but not so much for World War One. And just from what I've read so far and reading some reviews of the book and that sort of thing, this series and this book in particular doesn't deal just with the German Empire fighting the Russian Empire. It actually deals with the German Empire and the Austro-Hungarian Empire in their wars on the Eastern Front, as well as some of the other smaller factions that were taking part in World War One, such as Serbia. So it covers all the fronts on the Eastern War, or it covers all the fronts in the East during World War One throughout the series, which I thought is going to be super cool. And they're fairly big and scholarly, but I really hoping this one's really good because there's 3 more where this one came from, and yeah, this is definitely the one I'm most excited to start reading. Hopefully this month in April, but we'll see. So there you have it, guys. The books I picked up in the month of March. Definitely toned it down a little bit, so that's probably more responsible. But anyways, I hope your month of April turns out to be a good reading month for you. And always remember, read victoriously.